Welcome to another episode of Mano Maresco. Today we have an amazing episode. I'm super excited for this episode. Today we have Andrea, and we're gonna be talking a lot about like what is a woman being a selfish bitch, which I'm really excited for that, and learning more about about her story. So with that being said, Andrea, how are you?
I'm so wonderful, Andrea. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Like I said, I'm super excited. I'm so honored to have you here. Like, I don't know if you guys could see like the or feel the energy. Like, I don't know. I'm just like super excited. So, with that being said, oh, before I officially start, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share because that supports the podcast, and go follow Andrea because the content I binge watched yesterday, like y'all, you need to go watch her content. So, with that being
Thank
said,
you. Thank you so much.
with that being said, tell us a bit about your story. Like, how did you end up here empowering so many women to be that selfish bitch and like and empower their and reclaim their power?
Mm, you know, I feel like when I'm asked this question, I feel like I answer it differently every time because, depending on where you are in your life and your journey, it's like you recall so many different things. But what I will say is that I've always been a selfish bitch. People will ask you, they're like, well, like, how did you learn? And I'm like, well, I didn't really learn. It's just kind of like, oh, it's just like been in me. I grew up in a really small town in central Texas called Copper's Cove. It's a military town. My mom was in the army.
Mm,
And, I had a pretty rough childhood, really rough childhood growing up. My parents divorced at a young age. My father was a drug addict. He was addicted to heroin. He sold drugs. It wasn't a picture perfect family, picture perfect childhood. And I went through a period when I was around, probably from the time I was in elementary school going into middle school. And where I'm from, middle school is fifth and sixth grade. I know for some people it's
okay.
seventh, eighth grade, but we call that junior high school. So
Okay.
middle school for me was like fifth or sixth grade. And from the time I was maybe in fourth through fifth, sixth grade, I got teased a lot. Like I had a really hard time during those few years. I was always in like I was in gifted education. I entered gifted education when I was in the second grade and just always had like I guess like advanced intelligence. I was in separate classes from a lot of my classmates.
Mm.
And I would get made fun of for being like the teacher's pet. Teachers always called on me for, when they would ask questions. I was like Hermione from Harry Potter. I was just like, I know, I know.
Yeah.
So like that was me. Like that was that kid. Were you that kid?
No, I was like the teacher's pet, but I was more like the
Yeah.
silent, quiet, doesn't bother anybody. So
Yeah.
I'm in the more like introverted, but I'm like a really nice like
Yeah.
he's like, oh, she smiles too much. Like, but yeah.
You could never smile too much. You could never smile too much. But I relate to that as well because, I loved learning and I didn't have a lot of friends. And, because of my home life, I was just a little bit more withdrawn. And I got teased a lot. I got teased for being a teacher's pet. I got teased because, we didn't really have a lot of money. And around that era, that's when how your peers perceive you becomes very important, like what you're wearing and what people think about you. It's really important. So I wanted Nikes and Adidas, but we could only afford shoes from Family Dollar. And so I would get made fun of for that. And it was just really hard on my self-esteem. And it was around the time I was in junior high school, maybe the end of seventh grade, when I kind of started to blossom. Like I went, puberty, and then all of a sudden, boys, were giving me lots of attention and writing me love letters. And I started getting more interested in wearing like push up bras and tight pants and, all of those things. And there was this one girl, because I want to answer your question about how I came into like this space. There was this girl who used to follow me home off the bus from school every single day. And she would just like yell insults at me and she always tried to fight me. And she was just really mean to me. And I was like, I don't understand why you're so mean to me. I don't mess with anybody, but she was just so mean. And then one day, towards the end of seventh grade, we were in the cafeteria and she came up to me and she was like yelling in my face in the cafeteria and she would call me chicken brain. She would call me chicken brain because she would say I was too scared to fight her. And
Mhm.
she kept calling me chicken brain. And then she walked away. As she was walking away, I said, bye, ho. Which is like so silly, but back then,
It's
oh my
everything.
God, like it was a big deal. And like everybody that was around her, they were like, oh, oh. And then that was sort of like my origin story because from there, I was just like, oh, so this is what happens when you stand up for yourself. This is what happens when you talk back to the bully. Like, because after that, she never messed with me again. She left me alone after that. And so it made me realize that by me, not standing up for myself, by not sort of like pushing back or talking back, I was sort of creating this energy or this field where people thought that they could just mess with me. And then so after that, I became the one, like I went from being the girl who got teased all through elementary school to being the girl that nobody messed with because they knew that if they came after me, they were going to get like a tongue lashing. I had a razor sharp tongue. I was really witty, and I was not mean. I didn't go after people, but if you came for me, oh, I was gonna rip you to shreds. And so I sort of found this power, this ability to just like speak up for myself and stand up for myself. And I would also stand up for my friends. Like when people would be mean to my friends, I would stand up for my friends. And once I was in high school, I became, my friends would come to me for advice a lot, and they would ask me for my advice or what I thought about things. And even topics that I didn't really have any experience with, people would still ask me for advice. And I just always knew what to say. I always just said the right thing. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was me sort of laying the groundwork for the work that I do now, where I teach women how to stand up for themselves, how to honor their no, how to know their value and to know their worth. I was tapping into my gifts as an intuitive guide, someone who just is able to channel a lot of knowledge. I see myself as someone who is claircognizant. I just know things without knowing how I know things. And I also, growing up, I was raised in a Christian household, and I had a lot of resistance to what I was being taught in religion and being taught in church. And I just had a lot of questions. And as I went into my 20s, I just started asking more and more questions. I asked a lot of questions as a kid that got me in trouble. But as an adult, I just started asking more questions. And then with the rise of the internet and social media, I had access to a lot more information than we had. I guarantee I'm a lot older than you. I guarantee I'm a lot
I'm
older than
gonna
you.
ask the age because you look so young.
I'm 38.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have guessed that. I'm 25. I was gonna say like 27, 28.
And you look even younger than 25. And I appreciate that. I do. I get that a lot. But yes, I'm 38. I'm about to turn 39 in March.
Ooh.
So I grew up like I'm an elder millennial. So we basically built social media.
Mm.
And so this era, this information age that we live in right now has been so beautiful because now we have access to so much data and ancient wisdom and things that have been hidden for so long. And all of the questions that I had as a kid and as a teen and an even younger woman that I didn't have the ability to find answers to, all of a sudden I had access to all of it. So I just have dedicated the last 10 years of my life to just learning everything that I can about the history of women. Who is the divine feminine? Like I remember the first time I heard the divine feminine, I was like, what, who is that? But it like resonated so deeply in my being. And as I started reading and learning about the divine feminine, I was just like, oh my God, like everything just started clicking. Everything just started making sense. And one of the other jobs that I do, I work as an actress, and the work that I do as an actress, being on TV, having a platform, I always knew that it was going to be a bridge that was going to give me the opportunity to connect with women worldwide. Like I always knew from a young age, I wanted to work with women. I had no idea what it would look like. This was pre Facebook, pre, Instagram. This was like not even quite MySpace. Like MySpace wasn't even fully a thing yet at this time. And so now it's all sort of come together where these little intuitive hits that I had as a teenager have just sort of coalesced into this life that I live now. So that is like the very long answer to that question of like how I got to this point.
At this point, yeah, that's so crazy. And I want to start with the selfish bitch. I think I want to explain.
Yeah.
I think there's also could be a lot of misconception. At least when I saw it, I was like, okay, but there's like a lot of like things that we could talk about. So how would you
Yeah.
define selfish bitch and how what is it specifically? How do you define it?
Y- Yeah. So, I mean, it's to me, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? And it's very on the nose. And I use this term on purpose because I remember growing up and, when I would set boundaries or when I would say no to things, people will call you selfish. And I never really heard boys referred to as selfish. It was always girls that were being called selfish or women that were being called selfish. And it always bothered me that because I said no to something that I wasn't comfortable with or that I didn't want to do, whether it was sharing my candy or going on a date or giving somebody money, whatever it was, I would get called selfish. And it used to really piss me off because I'm allowed to say no. And I shouldn't be called names because I say no to something. And so when I started doing my work with women, where I started teaching master classes around, how to change your life and how to heal from childhood trauma. I do a lot of work around the mother wound and things like that. When I would work with women one on one, I just kept seeing the same thing over and over again, which was this fear of being selfish. Women who didn't set boundaries, wouldn't say no, wouldn't honor themselves because they had guilt and shame around focusing on themselves.
Mhm.
And after seeing this pattern over and over again, and also looking back on my own experiences of having been called selfish and just being like, I don't care if you think I'm selfish. I don't care if you think I'm a bitch. I'm going to stand up for myself. That's where this class was birthed. And the first time I taught my class Selfish Bitch was December of 2024. Or December 2023. So just over 2 years ago. And so I created this class because I wanted women to understand why you've been trained to fear being called selfish, why you've been trained to fear being called a bitch, because women still have, a very visceral response. Like women will see my content and it scares them because women are trained from a very young age that good girls aren't selfish. Good girls say yes.
Mhm.
Good girls are polite. Good girls please other people. And if you don't do that, the opposite of being a good girl is being selfish or being a bitch, or in some cases, a selfish bitch. And I've been called a selfish bitch. And I realized, from learning about patriarchy, learning about patriarchy and all of the structures and systems that have kept women mentally enslaved to the system. Part of that is training women to fear their own sovereignty, their own autonomy, their own freedom. And so this is why I teach this framework and I'm very in your face about just saying selfish bitch so that it's to desensitize women to the fear response around being called or being seen as that way or being seen as selfish, being seen as a bitch.
Right. And I think when I was like looking at your content, I like the radical responsibility that you mentioned too, because it comes with a lot of responsibility. And I want to
Yeah.
ask because how do you differentiate because there's the negative for me, like when I think selfish bitch is like a rude person, a mean person. So how do you, because that's what I was like, sometimes even saying it is like, I don't- but it's like being like getting out of my comfort zone, right? But how do you differentiate that, and how do you not pass that line of like being mean and rude and like being
Mhm.
aligned with like what you believe and saying no that's like an actual no, but not being rude and mean, where you don't become that negative connotation of being a selfish bitch, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. And I kind of have like a two-part answer to that. One is who decides what's rude? Like who decides what's rude? Because you can say something so kindly or you can say something directly but with compassion, with kindness, with clarity and firmness, and because somebody wants something from you and they feel offended that you say no, they will see you as rude. And
Right.
so when we say, well, this is rude, by whose standard? Right. And
Mhm.
so that's another reason why I'm so clear about labeling it what it is, because there's no coherent definition of what rudeness is. And very often people will just say you're rude or you're a bitch because they want something from you and you're making them feel upset when you don't give it to them. And we see this a lot in, I work with a lot of women who are eldest daughters. Eldest daughters are the firstborn daughter who get parentified, meaning they are given adult responsibilities as children. They are responsible for caring for younger siblings. They have to do more domestic labor around the house. And very often that domestic labor is something that only the girls have to do, but the boys don't have to do that. And so, you know, so to answer that first piece is like who determines what's rude? And then the other part is when you are living your life from a place of integrity, living your life from a place of compassion and empathy, and that being sort of the core and the foundation of who you are. And for most women are very compassionate, very empathetic, very integral. Yes, there are women out there that are mean, who are malicious, because that's the key is that there's a maliciousness driving the behavior. And that's when you start getting into mean territory or hateful territory. But if your actions are not rooted in maliciousness or malice toward the other person, then to me, it's not a negative thing. And even like the maliciousness, like I don't necessarily want to call it negative because that's a survival response that women are operating from when they're being mean or malicious. Like some women fawn and go into the people pleaser to protect themselves, and then other women externalize and are mean and malicious or aggressive, but that's also a protective mechanism. It's just two different ways that you're going about trying to protect yourself from, what you are experiencing externally. And so to differentiate between being a selfish bitch who is sovereign and being a bitch or a mean person is what is the energy that's underpinning your action? Is it compassion, empathy, kindness, or is it malice?
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think that's where I wanted to get to because it's like having those key questions or key metrics, if you I don't know what the word is, but like to be able to differentiate, like, am I being aligned with what I'm saying? Like, does this resonate? Is this aligned? Because then we could get like in different directions when we
Hmm.
want to be that or embody that selfish bitch.
Yeah.
How do we start embodying that? Like, what are some questions that we ask ourselves that where we like see, okay, am I claiming my power? Do I even have my power? Like, what is my power? And then how can we start like healing that? And maybe we could even like talk about like specific topics like inner masculinity, femininity, like those topics, what divine
Mhm.
power is, feminine divine power, or feminine power.
Either both. Why
Maybe
not?
feminine, dark feminine. I think, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of questions in there, like just wherever you want to start.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great question. I actually just recorded a video today for my YouTube that I'm going to yes, please join my YouTube, subscribe. I've been posting videos almost every single day, and I'm currently working on a series around the dark feminine.
Mhm.
And so we talk about the divine feminine, and then people are like, "Oh, there's the light feminine, there's the dark feminine, there's the shadow, there's all these like aspects of femininity, and they all fall under the umbrella." But where a lot of women get tripped up is that the dark feminine, they mistake the dark feminine as being like an aesthetic. You see this a lot on social media where women will, they're wearing like all black and like smoky eye makeup. And the woman is always like a beautiful brunette with like, it's like femme fatale energy.
Okay.
And it's very superficial. And a lot of women's understanding of femininity is very superficial. It's about aesthetics and performance, or it's about pleasing men or finding a boyfriend, things that are not true feminine frequency, feminine energy. And so to answer your question of how do I start embodying this, you know, one of the first examples that I gave in the video that I recorded today is learning what your no is and feels like in your body, because a lot of women are disconnected from their sacred no. So women will say yes 100,000 times, but will never say no. They never say no. They are constantly overextending themselves. They're constantly overgiving. They're constantly saying yes to things that their body is telling them, actually, I don't want to do this. This doesn't feel right to me. And this goes back to conditioning. So all of these behaviors that we see reflected in women or even like older teen girls, this behavior starts as a child. So an example that I like to give that a lot of women can relate to is, like when you go to visit family and your mom says, well, you need to go give Uncle Ron a hug,
Mm.
but you don't want to give him a hug, or you don't want to give Auntie Susan a hug. I don't know where these names are coming from. These are just random names. But you don't want to give Auntie Susan a hug. And like as a kid, like your body is contracting and you feel the no in your body. But your mom or your dad tells you, well, no, you need to give them a hug because the good girls will give them a hug. And then what you start learning is if I say no, then I get punished.
Mm.
And that's the message that a lot of girls start internalizing. If I say no, then I'm going to get punished. Or if I say no, I'm not a good girl. Or if I say no, then no one's going to like me. And so women learn to start ignoring the no that lives in their body. They learn to ignore the wisdom of their body. And so I teach womb wisdom. I teach body coherence, which is about learning how to tune out everything that's happening outside of you, all of the external stimuli, and only listen to what's happening internally. And so learning what yes and what no feels like in your body is, to me, one of the first steps of learning how to embody this energy and set boundaries for yourself and be a selfish bitch or be in your dark feminine, because selfish bitch and the dark feminine are the same thing. It's just, I call it selfish bitch because it's like an archetype. But when you understand dark feminine energy, the selfish bitch is the dark feminine. She is clear in her sense of self. She is clear in her boundaries. She is clear in her vision for her life and her soul's mission. And she says no to anything that isn't aligned with that. And so learning your no is very, very important. Another example of something that is a way for you to, begin to live in and embody this energy is to, listen to, or excuse me, not be afraid to make people upset, not be afraid to make people feel disappointment or make people angry, honoring your truth, like speaking truthfully and honestly about what you feel or what you think or what you want. And if somebody doesn't like it or they're disappointed in that, learning to be okay with that, because a lot of women, especially women who are more empathic, meaning they're very in tuned and attuned to the energies of people around them, they can feel when someone's upset. They can feel when someone is unhappy or disappointed or angry, and they personalize it. They take it personally and they want to fix it. They want to fix and make other people not be in the experience that they're having, which requires you to abandon yourself. So if I say no to, a guy wants me to sleep with him, right? He wants me to sleep with him, but I don't want to sleep with him. And I say no. Go ahead.
No, it just reminded me of the story that you posted in your Instagram and your the lady that slept with his husband to keep the peace or something like that.
Yes,
It reminded
yes,
me of that.
yes. That's a perfect example. I sleep with him to keep the peace. And that woman is now, she's an older woman. She's in her early 40s. She has children, she has daughters, and she has spent her whole life pleasing other people to the point where even though her body is saying no to being with this guy, she is more concerned with making sure that he is happy so that she can feel some sense of safety. And so she betrays herself to give him what he wants. And a lot of women do that. And the comments on that post, I mean, there are so many comments of women saying, that was me, or this is me right now. And I don't want to be in this. I want to get out of this. And it's why I'm so direct and honest and truthful about talking about these things, because it's important to name what women are experiencing so that they can see themselves reflected back and say, whoa, when you put it like that, now I understand why this is hurting so bad, because maybe a lot of women don't understand why they feel so disconnected, or they don't understand why they don't feel the love from their husband or boyfriend or their mom or friend or whomever. So honoring your no, not being concerned with other, and I don't want to say not being concerned with people's feelings, because you care about how people feel, right?
Mhm.
It's not about not caring how they feel, but it's not caring so much about how other people feel that you will betray yourself to please them.
Right.
And that's the difference. And that's something that you learn to do over time as you get more practice and you become more confident, where you can sit with someone and you can say, I honor that this is upsetting you, and I recognize that you're feeling disappointment right now. And I want to hold space for the disappointment that you feel. And I also need to hold space for my own boundary, and let the other person manage their own feelings, because somebody else's disappointment or frustration is their disappointment. It's their frustration. It's not your thing to fix. And when you try to fix it, you will be betraying yourself. A
Mhm.
question that you can ask yourself, and I give these questions to, in Selfish Bitch, I have a whole section where I teach. I list off some questions. And one of the questions is, does this person make me feel respected and valued? You know, does this person make me feel respected and valued? And women are always like, oh, wow. And I'm just like, and you would think it'd be common sense, right? But women they don't put their self respect above others. They
Mhm.
put other people's perception of them above their own feeling of being respected. So, does this person respect and value me? And if the answer is no, why are you pouring all of your energy into someone that doesn't respect and value you?
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes time to learn what respect is or what value feels like. And when you ask that question and you start contemplating that and you start learning what it feels like to be respected and what it feels like to be valued, you're not going to allow anybody else to treat you with anything other than respect and value. Another question that you can ask yourself, because a lot of women feel guilt or shame, right? If they even think about saying no to somebody else, they feel guilt and shame because they're not used to pouring into themselves. So a question that I have them ask themselves is, because we're going to say you're going to feel guilt anyway, right? Like if you're going to feel guilt anyway, this is the question. If I'm going to feel guilt, would I rather feel guilt for disappointing someone else or for disappointing myself?
Oof, that's a good one.
If I'm going to feel shame, would I rather feel shame for disappointing someone else or disappointing myself? Always bring yourself into the equation, because most women aren't bringing themselves into the equation at all. They're only considering the other person. And when you bring yourself into the equation and you remember that you are important and you are valuable and you are deserving of respect, if I'm going to feel guilt or I'm going to feel shame, I'm going to feel shame for disappointing you. And that was something that I learned at a really young age after, having experiences where, like, I remember in the fifth grade, that was the first grade where you can bring candy to class. Because, in elementary school, you're not allowed to bring candy and stuff into class. But in the fifth grade, we were allowed to bring candy and like have snacks and things like that. And I remember, like, I was obsessed with Starburst. I loved, like, that was like one of my favorite candies, but not just any Starburst, the green pack, the tropical Starburst.
Okay.
And I would go to the dollar store and I would buy like the big bag for like $2. I would get the big bag of Starburst. I would bring that to school. And when I would bring that bag of Starburst to school, the kids who were in my class who were so mean to me, every other day they'd be so mean to me. But on the day that I had Starburst, they would be nice to me. That was the only time they'd be nice to me because they wanted candy. And the first few times I would give them candy when they would ask for it. And then I would feel so bad
Mm.
afterwards because they don't like me. They don't value me. They don't respect me. And I didn't have the language of value and respect back then, but I knew they didn't like me. I knew they were mean to me.
You've had,
And when I would give them candy and then the next day they'd be mean to me, I would just be like,
what the heck?
what the heck? What the heck? And then so I started to get brave. And then when I would bring my candy and they would ask me for some, I would say no. And it was uncomfortable. Oh, why not? You gave me some last time, or you gave him some. Like, why won't you give me any candy? Like, and people will try to override your boundaries.
Mhm.
And we're 10-year olds. And they're trying to override my boundaries. Well, you gave me some last week, or you gave them some. Like, why won't you give me any? And then that's the point where a lot of women will cave in
Mhm.
because they can't handle the pressure. And it took a little practice for me to be firm and say no. And that was when I started getting called selfish. I was like, well, you're an asshole. If I'm selfish, you're an asshole. And I don't share with assholes.
Mhm.
I'm not going to share with somebody that's mean to me. And so those are some questions. Do I feel respected and valued by this person? No. Then why am I killing myself to make them happy? And if I'm going to feel guilt or shame, would I rather feel guilt or shame for disappointing them or for disappointing myself? Because the feeling of betraying yourself is a terrible feeling. I'm sure you felt it. We've all felt it.
Yeah.
And to me, there's no worse feeling in the world than betraying myself. So I'm not going to feel that feeling. I would rather piss you off than feel the feeling of going against my own self.
I have like a very specific question within this because
Mhm.
I think it's like a specific topic in the family. But if you're dating someone who is like you answer those questions, the answer is like they're disrespecting me, they're not valuing me. And if I say no, like they're gonna get upset. How do you start, what conversations do you start having or what actions do you start taking in order to start having that confidence, embodying your power? And then whether or not like I think in this case it'll be like choosing to let go. But how do you start
Mhm.
getting that like groundedness to make that decision? Because it's hard, especially because that comes with a lot of years of like being the eldest daughter or like have to
Mhm.
people please. So what's a more like specific conversations that you should start having and start reflecting on so that you can start embodying that power?
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I was just saying is when you start realizing, like in the context of dating, for instance, oh, this person isn't making me feel good. Like he doesn't treat me well at all, or he only calls me to invite me over to his house to sleep with him.
Mm,
Or, when he comes over, he doesn't clean anything. He eats all my food and he doesn't replace it. He doesn't help around the house. Or, sometimes you don't start realizing this until you're married and you have kids and you realize you're doing all of the work and all of the labor. One of the things that I teach in Selfish Bitch is I talk about gender dynamics. And a lot of women are in denial about gender dynamics. They're in denial about the way that men really feel about women.
mm,
And a lot of men only see women as a resource. A lot of men don't value women as people, as human beings, as partners. They just see them as a tool that they can extract something from. Like you're there's I don't remember who it was, but I heard the term, someone called it a wife appliance.
oh God.
They see you as a wife appliance. It's the same way they look at a vacuum. Like the purpose of this vacuum is to suck up dirt off the floor. The purpose of this wife appliance is to cook me dinner, you know, uh, sleep with me at night and have my babies and take care of my babies. And I don't have to do anything because I married, and by marrying, I purchased this wife appliance. And this is what you do. And so for women, regardless of where you are in your relationship, you have to start getting honest with yourself about whether or not this person values you. And this isn't an overnight thing. A lot of women have very low self-esteem. They have very low self-esteem. They have low self-worth, which is why they put up with so much mistreatment in all of their relationships. And so it takes time to start building that relationship or with yourself and that self-esteem within. It takes time to start doing that. But a good way to do that, especially if, like, say you don't live with someone, you're just dating, start taking more time to yourself, because a lot of women spend so much time focusing on their partner. And I don't even like saying partner because a lot of these men are not partners. They're really not partners, but they're spending a lot of time with this person. And when you're spending so much time together, you are not giving yourself space to find clarity. You need time for clarity. You need time to take off the rose-colored glasses. And so it's really about getting into therapy, working with a coach like me,
As
reading books, you know, watching my content, learning about the divine feminine, learning about why patriarchy was created and how it has been able to exist for so many thousand years. Learning these things and understanding gender dynamics, how men truly feel about women, what they truly think about women. There are so many incredible women on social media who are talking about these things that are helping women snap out of the delusion because a lot of women are delusional about men. And their delusion is what keeps them in really toxic relationships where maybe he treated you well for the first 2 weeks, but since then he's treated you terribly. But because he made you feel so good those first 2 weeks, you're trying to recreate what you felt in those first 2 weeks, even though what he was doing in those first 2 weeks wasn't real. It was just a performance to hook you. And what you're experiencing now is the real version of him. And being honest about who this person is, because women will lie to themselves. They put rose colored glasses on. They're addicted to the fairy tale. They want the fairy tale and they're not honest. And so that's why I talk about radical responsibility and radical honesty, because if you're not honest, then you are going to stay stuck in loops. And even if you do break up with him, you're going to call in another relationship where you're going to repeat the same pattern over and over again until you wake up from the delusion. I was working with a woman who got out of a relationship where, the first thing that she said was, like I was coaching her and she said, well, he's really wonderful. He's a wonderful guy. And everybody thought that I was crazy for breaking up with him and da 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 da. And then she went on to tell me about their relationship and nothing about this man was wonderful.
oh my
And I'm like, where is the wonderful part? Well, there are so many good things. I'm like, yeah, those are called breadcrumbs.
God.
Those are breadcrumbs. And they'll do something nice every once in a while or say something nice every once in a while or just be a decent human being, which is what everybody is supposed to be doing. But women were like, oh, he actually looked after the children. Wow. And you put men on a pedestal for doing things that should be the bare minimum. And so my job was to help her see everything that you described is not a wonderful guy. And maybe outside of a relationship, he's a good guy. But in this relationship, he has not been wonderful to you. And you're lying to yourself about it because you're holding on to the feeling that he brought up within you when you were courting for the first month and he took you to nice places and showered you with gifts and flowers and said all of the right things. But all of his behavior since then for these years has not been wonderful, but you're holding on to an illusion. And so women like, to go back to the question of like, what questions can I ask myself? Like, am I lying to myself? Am I being honest about who this person is? Am I holding on to a fantasy that does not exist because their behavior tells you who they are, not what they say,
Mhm.
not what you imagine or the potential of who you think he can be, but who is he actually showing up as? That's the true person.
Okay, so that really, I'm gonna put that as a clip so that people can see that. Those really cool. I think in what you mentioned, I think the mothering, like woman mothering men is was also creating, so also taking that responsibility. So can we talk a bit about that? Like what's like mothering
Yeah.
women, like what are some specific things so that women could have it in mind, especially when they're what's it called? Like when they have children, like taking care of them, like, the values
Hmm.
and that they have.
Yeah. So I think that, excuse me, I'm going to mute really quick. Don't want to mess up the sound
Good.
with my coughing. So yeah, a lot of women, they mother men. They don't, and so much of this comes from it's a lack of trust, right? It's not trusting that he can rise on his own. Because if I don't help him, then he's not going to be who I need him to be or who I want him to be. And what you're doing is you're switching into a mothering role where you are now the caregiver of someone who is supposed to be a sovereign and autonomous being, where you're both coming into the relationship, bringing your wholeness and growing together. And instead, you're dragging him along and trying to get him to be something that he's not. This is part of the delusion of where women are not honest about who this person is. They have the idea of their potential, and I'm going to help you become the potential that I see, even though all of your behavior and actions are telling me that this isn't who you are. When you have a child, you see all of their potential. You have dreams for this kid and all of that, but also you have to be honest about who this child is. Like the potential that you see for them or the desires that you have for the child may not be what the child wants. It may not be the pathway of the child. Your job is to be a present guide to help them navigate their own journey to be who they're designed to be. But when you get into a relationship with the man and you're trying to do that as well, you are not giving him the opportunity to rise on his own. And this is what creates a lot of resentment in men, where they feel mothered by a woman and then they don't respect you because you are overgiving, you're pouring into him things that he hasn't actually earned, and then subconsciously, he's not being held to a higher standard. So he doesn't have anything to rise into. What will create better men in this world is for women to pull back and say, I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to be the best version of me. And only the best version of man can have access to the best version of me. But women aren't doing that. Women are saying, we're building businesses, we're healing, we're working on ourselves, but we're still allowing men who haven't earned access to us.
Hmm.
And when you're giving access to a man who hasn't earned it, he's going to take it. He's going to take whatever you give him, but he's not going to respect you. And then you switch into the mothering energy, and then you lose attraction to him. You start feeling frustrated. You start feeling depleted. You start feeling like there's an incongruence in the reciprocity. Like there is no reciprocity in the relationship. And that's what creates a lot of the discord between men and women in relationships. And so let men fall on their face, let them fail, let them figure it out. Like their job is to fix their own problems. And they're also there to make your life easier. Women have it flipped where they think that we're supposed to make their lives easier. And that's what creates a lot of the distortion in our relationships.
Right. And I want to talk in that same lane about energetically, because you mentioned how, at least when I was binge watching your content, you mentioned how men, like our room is the creation, like that's where we create. So we gotta connect. So we could even talk a bit about that. But then
Yeah.
also like men can use our energy or like can they gotta take our energy so that they can
Hmm.
manifest their goals. So can you explain a little bit of that? Because I know that could be like woo for some people, or like I know like men like do their own things, but like we're a vessel for so that they could manifest their things. So how does
Yeah. Yeah, so when I talk about embodiment, especially in terms of energy, everything that we see in the physical starts as an energy. There's an energy that manifests or concretizes into a physical structure. And so women, when we talk about the divine feminine, right? The feminine energy that is the life creating energy, like the feminine energy is reflected all throughout nature.
Mhm.
Everything in nature is feminine, and it's the feminine is the primary force or the primary energy, the superior energy. I'm just going to say it. Like a lot of women don't like to say that the feminine is superior. I'm going to say that the feminine is superior. And so, women, the human female, is the physical embodiment of the divine feminine energy, and that we bring forth life. And part of being a human is having consciousness. It's what separates us from animals and insects. I mean, animals have some level of consciousness, but they don't have consciousness in terms of being able to reason and manifest and to create reality. And that is what like reality is, the manifestation of consciousness, or the way that we think, our beliefs about ourselves and our beliefs about the world and what we can create in the world. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so men and when it comes to feminine and masculine energy, women also have masculine energy and men have some feminine energy. They have some access to feminine energy, but they do not have the womb. And the womb is the portal of creation. So the womb represents like our feminine creative power. And
Okay.
that's where life comes from, consciousness comes from, that's how we manifest. And this is why a lot of women struggle because they're not connected to their womb, they're not connected to their body. And so they are manifesting from a disconnected place, meaning they're manifesting challenges and difficulties and toxicity because that is what is resonating within their being. When you engage with a man intimately, that that is where men are most likely to steal your energy. They'll steal your energy from, asking you to do things and you just do it and like using your labor and all of that. But when it comes to the act of having, I don't know what you can say on YouTube, but like sex, when you're having sex with a man, you are joining, not you're not just joining bodies, you're joining consciousness. And this is, something that a lot of women don't understand, and this is something that we're not taught, right? And that's why you said like it could be like kind of like woo woo, and some people might say that's not true. Well, keep living life the way that you're living it. But the women that I work with and what I know and how I teach, women are able to shift out of these negative experiences when they learn this about themselves. So when a man is inside of you, like, and this is also why, let me rewind a little bit. This is why men are so attracted to women. Like we are all they think about. We're all they think about. Like everything that a man does is so that he can have access to a woman, whether it's I'm going to make a lot of money and get a good job, or I'm going to go into sports or whatever. Like, yeah, they have goals and dreams and things like that, but their goals and dreams are centered around gaining more resources so that they can have access to women.
Yeah.
They want to sleep with you. They want to be inside of you. And the more that a man has access to a woman, especially when she's in her feminine energy, the more he is able to manifest and create within his world because he's using her womb space to do it. And they also see women as a release, a dumping ground. Because remember what I said at the beginning, they view women as a resource. Like you have a purpose that you're serving for them. So if a man is feeling stressed or depressed or angry or whatever, when he's with you and he is inside of you and thrusting and all of these things, he is essentially releasing all of that negative energy that he has within him into the woman's womb. And when women don't understand what's happening energetically, they don't know how to transmute that energy, it affects them physiologically. This is why a lot of women who are in draining relationships will gain a lot of weight, or they will develop reproductive disorders, fibroids, or endometriosis, infertility. Women will develop autoimmune disorders because they're being drained in their relationships. These are all things that manifest as a result of them taking on the toxicity that these men are essentially dumping into them. And then these men, because you are freely giving of yourself, they're receiving your essence and then they are able to have more energy or go and make things, create things. This is how men use your energy to manifest. And men who might be more attractive, might have more money, more resources, these types of men, not all of them, but a lot of them will be more promiscuous because they have access to more women. They're more attractive to more women. This is how they're able to get more and more and more because they have even more women in their field that are constantly giving them sexual energy.
Can you, or how do you protect that energy so that one, I mean, I guess one will be like, stop dating men like that.
Yes,
I think that's like the easy.
yes.
But if you're, while you're still like maybe deciding to like getting that confidence, embodying your power to let go, what can you do at the moment? Or is it just like literally letting go and forget?
I mean the easiest way to protect your energy is to not give access, right? And this is what women are starting to realize. More and more women are removing themselves from the dating pool. More and more women are engaging in celibacy or abstinence where they're not having sex with men at all. They're focusing on themselves. They're pulling their energy back. Because remember, you are allowing them to access you. And when you allow them to access you, especially when you don't know them, because a lot of women are sleeping with men that they don't know. You're sleeping with men after, two dates, one date, sometimes not even a date. Sometimes you're just texting and then he tells you to come over and then you go over there and you're sleeping with him. Like, girl, what are you doing? And that's how women get caught up, because then once you do that physical union, then it creates like an enmeshment. And
Mm-hmm.
so to protect yourself, you know, stop giving men access to you until they have earned it, and like really truly earned it, meaning for a consistent amount of time over time, because consistency matters. Because men will say and do things for the first month, but are they still saying and doing that 6 months from now? Are they still saying and doing that a year from now? And if they're not, then that's when you revoke access. But you have to give yourself time to get to know them, to see who they really are. And women aren't doing that. And so they're giving their bodies to men who don't even like them. They just want access to them. So taking your time, like if you're going to date men, if you're someone who has very low self-esteem, you've been in a lot of toxic relationships, if you've been abused by a man, you need to stop sleeping with men. You need to stop dating men for, I can't say how long, but you need to focus on yourself and your healing, because until you heal and you develop confidence and discernment, you're going to keep falling into the trap. And so removing access until you feel like you are ready to come back into the world and engage with men with strong boundaries, and not just saying what your boundaries are, but actually enforcing your boundaries. And then the other side of the coin is that you can never be afraid to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
When he stops being consistent, when he stops showing up, when he stops earning the right to access you, you need to revoke access. Because women will say, well, for the first 5 years, he was amazing. And then we got married and then he was terrible. Divorce him, break up with him. You know what I'm saying? Because when they start being inconsistent, it means that they are no longer valuing you.
Mm-hmm.
They're no longer afraid to lose you. A man should always, in the back of his mind, be afraid to lose you, because that is when he's going to treat you the best, because he values you. Like you have your necklace that you have on, like, is that a necklace that you really love?
I do. I have a tiger.
Yeah. So you have this beautiful necklace on. Like these necklaces, like I love and value these necklaces. And I take good care of these necklaces. I don't toss them around. I don't wear them in the ocean, or I don't get them wet, or like where they're going to tarnish or like I take good care of these because I value them.
Right.
If I no longer valued these necklaces, I would just take it off and toss it. I wouldn't polish them. I wouldn't take good care of them. I wouldn't put them in their box when I travel. And so think of it the same way. If a man is not valuing you, he's not going to treat you like he values you. So when he starts treating you like he doesn't value, like at the beginning, he treated me like he valued me, but now he's treating me like he doesn't value me. And if he doesn't value me, he doesn't deserve me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it goes back to that question I gave you before. Does this person respect and value me? Even if you've been with them for a long time, you need to be asking yourself, does this person respect and value me? And if he's showing me through his actions that he doesn't value me and he doesn't respect me, he doesn't deserve to even breathe the same air as me. He's got to go.
Yeah. Where does communication go in? Because I feel like, at least personally, I could be a very extreme person. So it's like you telling me, okay, that's it. But then there's also this part of like there's always communication. My thought, or I think the answer is like communication, they're not changing, then let go. Is that right? Or is like what type of conversation
Well,
should we have with men?
yeah, I mean, I think when you first start noticing shifts, then you can absolutely address those things, like, hey, like I noticed that for these last couple of weeks or these last couple of months, because men are human. They go through things. Like sometimes they get depressed or they lose their job, or they're feeling insecure about things, like they're human beings and we have grace and compassion for the human experience that they're having as well. But that's a very different thing from a man feeling like, oh, well, now that we're married, I don't have to do those things anymore because I've got you locked down. Or now you're pregnant, because a lot of men will do that. They will play the role until they get you pregnant or they marry you or they feel confident that it's going to be harder for you to leave. And then they stop doing the thing that they were doing initially. And so, yes, you can communicate, but also behavior is a form of communication. And
Right.
that's something that I've had to teach women. Behavior is communication. Women will always say, well, I want to talk to him about it. Let's communicate. He's communicating by being disrespectful. He's communicating by, going a week without calling you or never taking you on dates, or he's also communicating to you that way. And it's important for women to remember that actions are a form of communication. And we often will discount that and we think it's all about talking, but he's telling you through his behavior how he feels about you. And it's important to listen to that also.
No, I think that hit me like a big aha moment because in my past relationship, it was like, no, we gotta communicate, we gotta talk about it. But it's like, if there's no change, and I was like, and it was really hard for me to let go of that relationship. Like he had to
Yeah.
break up with me because I was like feeling so down, and like I was crying all the time, and I was like, I don't want it, but like I just didn't have the courage to like break up and like get
Yeah.
over. So that was like an aha moment right now for me. Um,
Yes, good. And a lot of women, you're not alone. Like I've been there too, where, I used to be married and I was just like, I felt like this isn't working. This isn't right. Like, I'm not being treated well. This man, like, does this man even like me? Like, I remember being like, I don't even think he likes me. You know what I mean? But you're still just like, but for the first 5 years, it was amazing. And he was so sweet. But it's like for these last 3 years, it hasn't been. And he's shown me over and over again that he doesn't value me. And it wasn't until like with my ex-husband, it wasn't, and it's okay if we go like a few minutes over
yeah, I was gonna
with
say.
my, yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time to or watching the time. But with my ex-husband, he, you know, all of the things that we had conversations, I would communicate to him like, hey, like this is how I'm feeling and this is what I need and what do you need and all of that. And there was no change. But as soon as I asked for a divorce, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And that's not genuine change. That is the fear of losing access to you. It's
Mhm.
the a fear of facing the consequences, because that's honestly how men learn. Like, men don't learn from you talking to them. They learn by whether or not you are present or not in their life. The consequences is how men learn. And if they never receive consequences, they're never going to shift or evolve. They have to experience the consequences to grow.
Right. I know we're in time, so and I'm gonna have I need you back in this podcast so we can talk even more. But just to be aware of time, I'll ask you my last two, unless you want to add
Yeah.
before I ask the two questions, do you want to add something else that you think we didn't talk about might be useful for those who are listening or watching?
I mean, I feel you asked some really wonderful questions, and I'm curious to hear what your other two are. And of course, I'm a talker, so I'll expand.
Okay. My last two questions, they're always the same. And
Hmm.
for those who come, and the first one is, with this experience of life that we've had, what are these three like like, oh my God, this like miracles type of experiences was like, I can't believe this happened to me. Because, and we could have talked about like the identity because of the new year. Like there's a go to your YouTube channel or your Instagram. You did a live, I think recently or in December,
Hmm.
where you talk about new having a new identity or something like that.
Yes.
I'm not getting
Yeah.
down to the words, but oh yeah, what are those like miracle moments that you had in either this past year or a couple of years back where you're like, I can't believe this happened to me? And it could be
Oh
any.
my goodness.
I know it's pretty broad, but like anything.
Mm. Well, the first thing that's coming to my mind is going to Egypt, going to Egypt in November, for that was my first time there. And the circumstances and how it all aligned was just so beautiful, because my dear friend Paula runs her retreats in Egypt. She does retreats in Egypt and in Switzerland, and her Egypt retreat is called Take Me to Egypt. And I've known her for about 4 years, and I remember like every like we go to this women's gathering called Spirit Weavers that happens in the summer in Oregon, which I don't know where you live, or like you might want to look into Spirit Weavers because it's amazing. It's like one of my favorite things to do every single year is go to this women's gathering. We spend 2 weeks living on the land, and it's all women and children. There's no men, and it's just divine.
I'll check it out.
And I met, check it out. And I think tickets go on sale like next week. But Paula, she does offerings there. She teaches classes. She does a lot of work around the Orishas, like Oshun and Yamaya. And I told her for like the last couple of years, she's like, you got to come to Egypt. And I was like, girl, I want to come to Egypt with you so bad. When I come to Egypt, it's going to be with you. I promise. And but also like her retreats are like luxury retreats. So they're like a higher price point. I was just like, girl, like that's a lot of money, you know? And she reached out to me it was either August or September, and she invited me to the retreat.
Oh, wow.
She invited me to the retreat and she said, I really want you here. I think your medicine would be amazing. I want you to come and teach your class and just hold space. And I want to cover your experience so that you can come and do this. And like that to me was like a miracle because it's such a testament to how God shows up for you when you are aligned, when you are in your purpose and you're in your work. I've had so many experiences where people will just, invite me into things because they are seeing what I'm doing. They're seeing how I'm showing up and they want to amplify my voice. They want to support me. Like you inviting me onto your podcast, like I don't take that lightly because like someone who has their own platform, their own creation is seeing something that I'm saying and it's resonating with them and they want to bring me into their world to share with their people. Like that to me is a miracle. So every time I get an invitation to like a podcast or like going to Egypt, it just really, really means a lot to me. And I'll give one more example.
Please, please.
Um, I this was when I was first learning about like real manifestation, like consciously manifesting things, and how powerful it is to commit to like when you commit to an experience. And this kind of goes in line with what I've been saying with this answer is when you commit to yourself, the divine will support you. And one of my first experiences with this miracle was I was working with a teacher who also does international retreats, and she was taking her group to Marrakesh, Morocco.
Oh, okay.
And I had been wanting to go to Morocco for a while, and I really wanted to go to her retreat. And I remember her retreat was it was $7,500. And I did not have $7,500. Well, I can't say I didn't have $7,500, but it was like I was living off of residual income from working in television as an actress. I was still getting paid from a previous TV show, but
Mm,
I didn't have a lot of money like consistently coming in. And I only had enough expenses saved or enough money for expenses for like 3 months. This was the end of 2019. And I just said, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to this retreat. Like I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm going to go. And I signed the contract. I gave my credit card for it. And then I called my business manager afterwards. So I didn't talk to my business manager first. I talked to them afterwards. I was like, so I did a thing. I did this thing. I signed up for this retreat. I really want to go. Like we have to figure out how I'm going to make it happen, but I really want to go and this is how much it is. And on that call, he told me, he said, "Oh, well, he's like it's so funny you say that because you just got a payment that came through, and the payment that had just come through, it was like 2 days before that I did not know about.
oh my
It
God.
was $7,500.
No way.
It was the exact amount of the retreat. And I was just like, oh my God, like miracles. And so the point of this, like what I'm sharing is that, you know, when you are aligned, when you are feeling resonance with something that you know in your heart is correct for you, you don't really need to think about how it's going to happen. You just need to trust that it will happen and be open to it coming to you in different ways, because sometimes we think, well, I have to book a job in order to get this, or this has to happen in order for this to happen. But God is not limited. Like, she is expansive and she is unlimited, or God is not limited. She's unlimited.
Yeah.
And so your idea of the how or why isn't really your concern, because the divine is going to figure that out for you.
That's so true. And something I like, two keywords I always remember is infinite possibilities. Like,
Infinite possibilities.
yeah, because at least especially for us who like grew up where like there's it's just a certain way with this like culture,
Yeah.
family, society, and it's like we gotta like let go of like that blindfold, like infinite possibilities like everywhere.
Hmm.
Since we're in time, last question. For
Yeah.
those who are watching, listening, and they feel like they don't deserve this, like they don't deserve the life
Mm.
they don't trust themselves, like all those doubts and fears that we have. What either advice, tip, practice would you give them so that they realize and they remember that they are these like powerful, divine, like whether men, women, it doesn't really matter. Like they all have this power to
Yeah.
create or co-create the life that they want.
Yes. Oh, that's such a beautiful question. It's hard because, people who are in that space, they feel like this is just the way that it is. Like how can I go from not loving myself or valuing myself or thinking that I'm worthy of more to being in that energy? And there's a lot of different ways that I could answer this question, but the first thing that spirit gave me was mirror work. Because if people talk about affirmations and things like that, and like, oh, I am fully abundant and I am supported, and like, affirmations can be really beautiful, but for me, a lot of people don't trust themselves because they're not even really willing to witness themselves. And
Yeah.
so when I say mirror work, I'm talking about sitting in front of the mirror and getting comfortable with your reflection. Getting comfortable with your reflection. So sitting in front of the mirror and looking in your own eyes, and you don't have to say anything. You don't have to, I love to do affirmations to myself in the mirror, like looking like right in my eyes, or like looking in one eye, like my right eye. I'll just like stare into that eye and I'll speak to myself. But talking to yourself in the mirror, and because the reflection that's on the other side is you, but it's also like a version of you that isn't you, but also you. Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like, I know it's a little like abstract, but this who you're looking at in the mirror is you, but it's also the version of you that maybe has a different level of awareness than you do. Like, sometimes when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I will see and feel like wisdom that I didn't realize that I had reflected back at me. And the more you get comfortable with seeing yourself, like truly seeing yourself and just breathing and letting whatever comes to the surface, like, it's going to feel awkward. Like, people will feel very awkward at first. Like, I can't look at myself in the mirror, and but that your inability to look at yourself is one of the reasons why you're struggling, because you don't see yourself. You don't see how beautiful you are. You don't see how powerful you are. You don't see all of the possibilities that you can create for yourself. So if you don't have any resources, like maybe you don't have any money, maybe you're struggling financially, but you have a mirror. You have a mirror. And so sit in front of the mirror and just try for 2 minutes that first time of just looking at yourself without breaking eye contact. And then slowly start working your way up, and then start offering prayers to yourself. What are the things that you desire? And speak those desires to yourself in the mirror. And then before you know it, things are going to start shifting in your world. You're going to start feeling more confident. You're going to be able to hold your gaze longer. You're going to be able to feel emotions without running away from your emotions. There's going to be a lot of really beautiful outcomes that'll come from that space.
No, thank you so much. I'm pretty sure this whole conversation is just like to my heart, and so I really appreciate
Mm.
being here. It was such an honor. Do you want to add any? I think I asked it before, but do you want to add anything else before we close or end this conversation?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank you so much, Andrea. It was such a pleasure to meet you and to sit with you and to be asked these questions and share what it is that I have to share with your audience. I'm truly, truly grateful. And I honor the work that you're doing and how you're using your platform to be in service to others. I think that's a beautiful thing. And like for anybody else that's watching, being in service, being in service is such an important part of our humanity and finding ways in which to help other people, whatever that looks like. Maybe sometimes being in service just means making a beautiful painting and showing that on Instagram. Like if that's your way of being in service, then that is correct. And so I want to honor you for that and thank you so much for your time. And for anybody who, is interested in working with me one-on-one, I have so many offerings that are available. I offer spiritual alignment sessions. If you're a woman who wants to connect to your womb and learn how to talk to your body and hear the wisdom of your body, you want to heal from things that you may have gone through in the past. Maybe there's been sexual trauma, or you have given your body to men or partners that were misaligned. You're dealing with reproductive issues. My womb alchemy sessions are a really, really powerful way to start healing your womb and creating that inner union within yourself. I also am teaching my selfish bitch initiation right now. I don't know when this is going to air, but even if this airs after the live experience is done, it will still be available for you to purchase. All of the recordings will be available, and the transmissions will be just as powerful as they are live. And so my selfish bitch initiation is available. My selfish bitch masterclass is available also. But if you sign up for the selfish bitch initiation, then you will get free access to the selfish bitch masterclass. So that's included in that. And yeah, my socials, like I'm Andrea Bordeaux across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but I don't really use TikTok. I mostly scroll on TikTok. And also my Substack. I have a Substack called The Dark Rose,
Mm.
and you can find that by using my name. And yeah, I'm just here to put it all in the description
Yeah.
box below. And yeah, I'm just here to be in service and to help you understand that you are divine and beautiful and that you deserve to have everything that you dream of. And there are so many people out there that can help you achieve that. And you also have a soul's mission. If you're not connected to your soul's mission, it's time to start doing that work, because all of the changes that are happening globally right now, all of the chaos and the systems collapsing and crumbling and the awakening that's happening, it's so that people can come into coherence and resonance for their soul's mission. And so if you are in a field, a line of work, a profession that has not felt correct for you, this is the time to start figuring out what you're actually supposed to be doing, because what you're actually supposed to be doing is what's going to help you create abundance and healing. It's going to help you connect to your community. So if you don't have any of those things, it's because you're not connected to your soul's mission yet.
Yep. And that right there, that's a lot to talk about. So I hope you can come back very, very soon. But we'll talk later. And with that being said, if you're watching, listening, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share, because that supports the podcast. Go follow Andrea. Andrea. We got the same name. That's so funny.
I know, I love it.
But yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.